Interjection here, Nation of Warriors, tips and tricks number 4. Now this is a summary of tips and tricks number 3. Before I start, I'm just going to quickly go ahead and mute that music because it's annoying as hell. So first, all I'm going to do is summarize everything in tips and tricks number 3 because I'm going to quickly power through what was said. Let's move on. So menu, I'm going to talk about the options here and what I use. So I'm going to start with the graphical options. I play in window mode because I have 2 monitors, and then I can slide my mouse across onto the next screen to do what I want whilst I'm playing, should I need to. I play in the maximum resolution so I can see as much as I possibly can, and I have this bit depth and refresh rate up as high as I can because I think they make a difference as to how often the page refreshes. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter, but you can pretty much have your graphics however you want them to be. You might want your graphics on. I personally have like everything off because it loads the game faster, and to be honest, I've played this game for so long now that I don't care about the graphics. I just like the game. I do have footprints on though because I figured once I was on a snow map and I saw some footprints fading out into the darkness as my opponent's units moved away, and I wouldn't have known that they were there if I hadn't seen the footprints. So that is kind of useful. I'd have that on. I'm going to go straight onto. I'll just press OK so everything loads here. So now you can see back to how I would normally be, except for the fact that a few of these I don't have like down here, and if I want to put a settler in queue, it doesn't appear across the top, and that is what I'm going to go through and explain how to do. And also my arrow keys, I navigate with my arrow keys, I don't move my mouse to the side, partly because I have a second monitor, and if I moved to the far left it would go on to the next screen, and that would just be annoying. But anyway, let's go ahead. Options, UI options. Now, you pretty much, I personally, if you want everything like I have it, then I'd just go ahead and stick everything on, and then we'll go through and turn them off, and I'll explain what each one does. I don't want all of them on, but I'll put them all on to start with, and then I can take them off and explain what they do. So now you can see an immediate difference, and also that settler, now if I put these 2 in queue, they appear here. So let's go back to options and enable minimized UI. Now essentially this just makes the screen back to this size. I personally have it this size because that's what I'm used to, and I like it that size, and people advise me to have it smaller so you can see more of the map, and to them I say,
Correcto.
yes, I know you can see more of the map, but I want it like this. So I like it like this also because if you look at the statistics, you can see all of the statistics on the units, but if you have this off, you only see a few, you don't see all of them, which I find I don't like that as much. Enable chat, minimize chat UI, that's not going to affect your game very much, but you have a smaller chat box, like if you have it off, then this chat box is small, rather than being a large chat box and you press buttons to communicate, you just see more of the map whilst you're typing. It's better to have online, in my opinion. So you show unit training queue. If I turn this off, you can now no longer see these units in the queue. If I put it back on, now you can see they're in the queue. Any researches, any units at all will go there. However, buildings, if I just build this house, this house here, that doesn't appear. Obviously, you should probably know where you're putting your foundations. Show game time, I have that on. If we look in the top right of the screen, it says how long the game's been going, and if I press F11, that'll disappear. You can turn that off and on by pressing F11. Something else I also found that I thought I'd mention, if you press F10, it pauses the game and opens the menu. I pause the game normally by pressing the pause break button, which does this. I'm not sure if F10 will work online, I have no idea. Anyway, let's move on. Show gatherers per resource. Now you need, well, I personally need this to play. I really cannot play without it, because you see, I've got all my resources here. I've got 100 wood, and then next to it there's a 0. And then that shows how many villagers are collecting wood. So if I move my 9 settlers onto wood, when they arrive at the wood, here we are, 6, 9, there you go, 9 settlers all collecting wood. Now if I want to select all them settlers, I can just click on that number, and it'll teleport me to these gatherers collecting these resources. So I can quickly find units collecting food, or sorry, wood. If I have, like, say, a unit on the other side of the map, and I didn't know I put it there, just cycle, click on that, and now it'd cycle through all the different locations I'm collecting wood, and I could find that settler that I forgot about pretty easily. Also, it works with idle settlers. If you watch the longer version of this video, I go into a lot more detail, everything really worth watching, I think. If you press this, then yeah, that teleports me to these idle settlers. So now let's move on. We're going to go on to show player score. Now that is really, really important in my opinion. You see now I've got this score, move on to the black so it's easier to see. Interjection 18, Frederick the Great 18. Now the score is basically it just adds up as you produce and collect resources. Anything that, like a military unit that costs resources, that will then add to your score. and then once it's produced, that is, and obviously any resources you collect will add to your score. Whilst the unit's in training, the score goes down because the game doesn't register that it's there, or if you research something whilst the research is in production, your score will go down, but when the research is finished researching, it'll go back up again, and you can see that. Also, anyway, let's just move on. So, show advanced formations. That's really quite important in my opinion. If we look, I don't have any units that do it, but in my other video I'll go into more detail. Let's quickly see. Normally you have, oh yeah, here we are, these formations here. This is volley mode, so it's regular. This is stagger mode, so he'll walk more slowly, but will take less damage when shot. Melee mode, meaning he'll go into hand combat here, so we do 6 times 3 against Treasure Guardians. If your opponent takes less damage from, takes more damage from melee attacks, then you might want to go into melee.
Even I am slightly surprised that you have been so poor at collecting treasures.
That's great, Freddy, thank you. And then defend mode, obviously you can go through. The stand ground is going to keep him where he is anyway. Options, let's have a look at show advanced unit type information. Having that selected, when you hover over things like this settler here, this little box information comes up. You get all the information you can possibly have. So I'd recommend having that on just in case there's something you want to know in game and quickly need to find out. It doesn't really take up a lot of space, isn't going to annoy you particularly much, really wouldn't worry about that. So enable friend foe colors. That'll basically, if you're playing on a team, everyone on your team will essentially have blue. Everyone will become blue, and all of your opponents will become red, which is really useful if you're colorblind. If not, then I really wouldn't recommend having it on because that's a pain in the ass. You can't tell whose units are what. Yeah, I personally wouldn't have enable friend foe, so I'm going to turn that off right now. Show advanced improvement information. That's the same, essentially the same as show advanced unit type information, but for researchers. Really, they should be in the same kind of the same button because there's no point separating them. Enable friend foe. We went through that. So Alt key shows hit point bar. Now in the vanilla, you don't have this option, but on the Asian dynasties, the Asian dynasties, if you hold Alt, you can now see the hit points of everything in the game, which is really useful if you're going to be microing, because then you can estimate how many units you should use to kill a particular unit whilst you're microing, or it's useful whilst herding, because that way you can see how many hit points a bison has and you don't accidentally kill it. Here we are, invert control shift functionality. That also isn't in the vanilla, but essentially, say you've got something with the control. If I hold shift, I can stack up these different waypoints, and my explorer will go to all of them different ones. But if I had invert the functions on, then I wouldn't be holding shift, I'd be holding control. It just switches them around, which is if you want them switched around, then obviously go for it. If not, that's just confusing as fuck, so don't do it. Fine. Anyway, the rest of these aren't particularly useful. They're just you can have a look through them, but I'm not going to explain them, they're not that great. So, enable military drag. I can quickly explain what this does. We're now on the game options. We'll do this. Basically, where's my explorer? We've got a war dog. So, my war dog is here, and if I drag a box, then only the war dog is being selected there because it's a military unit. But, see, now I'm selecting my civilian units, my settlers, but when a military one comes in, it only selects military. So if you have lots of military around your base and all your settlers are working, if that's enabled, you can just drag a box and get them out there. Personally, I don't use it because I'm used to individually selecting units, and it just annoys me when I want to drag a box and select everything and it won't. So personally, I don't have that on, but you might want that on. Some people might use it, I personally don't. So right now, the camera zoom is normal. I have it very far, because this essentially zooms us out a lot more, and now I can see a lot more. So if something was to happen in the upper corner of the screen, then I don't have to be navigating as much. It's just a lot easier. At first, it's really weird when you switch, but I would recommend getting used to that because I really do feel it helps. So everything else, the other options I go through in the longer video, but they're not very useful for an actual game, and that's all I'm going to be talking about. I've gone through the game options, my graphics options. Obviously, something I'd like to mention again is video resolution. The more you have, the larger the screen, and the more zoomed you are out. But obviously, resolution is going to be the key one affecting your CPU, and that might take more performance. Anyway, so sound options, obviously, everything to do with music. Don't have your music on unless you want it on, because it's yeah, anyway. And there's this allow taunts button, which might be quite useful, because if you disable that, then no one can spam taunts at you, and taunts can sometimes be quite frustrating. I personally have it on because I do like the taunts, and that is my choice. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and Interjection out. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and maybe a favourite because it really does help our channel grow. Clicking the subscribe button will notify you of any new releases from this channel, and if you're interested in joining Nation of Warriors, then get in contact with us in-game or on our forums. We have no skill requirements or requirements of any kind, except we do ask all members to have and use a headset microphone. Thanks guys, see you soon for another video.